service. So today we are going to go for among all three services EBS, EFS, S3, what exactly Amazon says. And initially I have discussed about storage gateway and I have discussed about something on FSX, the differences between FSX and EFS. FSX is designed for specific Windows servers and EFS designed for Linux machines, but they are both are same like a network private storage. And we have discussed about something like basically we thought about storage gateway, okay. And now we got an idea about how to decide of storage choosing, how to choose a proper storage, how to choose a proper storage to save the cost, to get good performance out of it, to make security. So if you want this, you need to decide very well. Yesterday, like here, we did this explanation and we have defined the differences between the storage and how to choose wisely. Now, it's time to start with S3. What is S3? Simple storage service. That means the 3S, you can see that. That's why they're saying what? S3. 3 times S. Simple storage service. This service introduced by Amazon initially before your EFS and all other services. And this service is basically, you can say, compare with your Google Drive, OneDrive, OneDrive and Google Drive. Have you seen the OneDrive and Google Drive? Have you used? It's a Microsoft product. Google Drive is going to what? Google product. So same like here, if I want to have a public storage and I want to go for just dump your data, if you want to do backup, you can use that. It's going to be very cheaper. If you want to serve any kind of object-based data, it's good to good. So same thing, Amazon introduced this, but it is more than that S3. That means your Google Drive and OneDrive. Let's see here. What exactly the purpose of your S3 service? Now, the question will be what is S3 about? Or you can say the purpose of S3 service. Why Amazon introduced? Why Amazon is offering this service to the customers? How Netflix, NASA, Apple, how they are using this S3 services? Now, understand this concept. Now, if I want to do with the diagram, we'll understand here. S3 is going to be, it's not comes under your VPC. It is a separate individual service, which is not a private storage, it's a public storage. So now, what you do is, you'll have a scenario here. A customer want to upload the data onto the our business application. Example, this is our business and this is our account, AWS account. In this account, I want to give space. I want to share space to the customers publicly so they can store the data here. So what I'll do is, in this S3, to store something, Amazon says you should have a container that is called bucket. You need to create a bucket in the S3, then you can allow them to store. A customer, example, they want to go forward, they want to upload, we allow that they can do what? Upload documents, or they can do backup. I want to say that they can do a WhatsApp backup, or they have some kind of data, their phone backup, or they want to go forward, the apps backup. Example, they have a database server, they want to do backup here. So I can give that option to customers that they can upload the data into the bucket, specific S3 bucket, okay, as a backup uh, storage. One of our team want to access the data. Example, the developer want to store the code. I'm just creating one more bucket for the developers. This is going to be a developers. So in my company, I want that whenever the developers are working on their system, they need to share the data to here in a bucket. So whenever the developer share and upload the data to this bucket, I want that other team should access this bucket. I want that other developer should access the bucket. That means this is going to be what? Team collaboration. So I can go for team collaboration here. So one of the scenario, like here I have given some backup. I have given a provision to my customer that you can do backup here. Our like here staff will maintain your backup here. Now developers want to store the data and they want to share to other team so they can access from other side. They are working from India and these developers are exactly here at South Africa. Okay, and developers, basically the customers are basically you have something in World Canada. So this bucket is a public bucket, so everyone can access globally from anywhere. There is no restrictions. Only I have to create a bucket as a container and I have to share to a specific team or specific customer or client. Or a developer you can see here, a developer basically a kind of what? Web designer. UI developer, you can say UI developer, who is developing a static website, and quickly they want to host website on a cloud, Amazon cloud, and they want that website should be accessed globally everyone. So this website can be hosted on easily on this S3 service, and I have to create one more bucket for this developer and I have to give the access to that. When they upload this content to this, the cloud engineer is going to do what? Who is responsible for maintaining all those things, creating bucket and all those things? Cloud engineer. Who's going to create? Who's going to allow them to store it? A cloud engineer. A cloud engineer responsibility is to allow this user to store something into this bucket. The customer should, that means allowing that to store something here, to access this user, this bucket. Who is going to do that? Cloud engineer. And if they want to host a website, who is going to host a website? A cloud engineer will help. So these developers and the customers and the other team will get help from cloud engineer. Who's going to create a buckets, who's going to define security, permissions, and who's going to share the data, who can access, who cannot access. This all thing will be done by a cloud engineer. That means create a bucket to allow store, to set up permission, to make it what? Public or a private bucket. That means you can share the data publicly or privately. Or you can say what? Set permissions, who can access, who cannot access. Host a website, enable the hosting, enable hosting website. And keep what? Other things, like here you can say about I can say lifecycle policy defining on a bucket, or these are the responsibility of the cloud engineer, creating buckets, public or private, set permission, enable hosting website, lifecycle policy, or you can say a kind of what? Events, monitoring, integrate with what? integrate with Lambda. So we have multiple options here, and this all maintenance and managed by the cloud engineer. These are the things managed by the cloud engineer. Now, what I want, I host a website. I uploaded a website here. The website is running. So the public user can access. Whether they can access or not, who is going to decide? A cloud engineer will decide it. Who can access, who cannot access. Worldwide, this becomes a website and everyone can access the website here. These are public users who want to access the website. So they are going to go for what? Accessing the website here from a browser. HTTP protocol. So these are various use cases. I said developer use for collaboration of data, the code, and the customer can use for backing up the data of their application or their any kind of resources online, because it's going to be durable, it's going to be very cheaper. And internal developers, I have some kind of like UI developer. They want to host a website on a cloud very quickly and easy. That's S3 is the best way. Upload and just enable that particular option to host a website. That's it. No Linux, no Windows, no learning of any software additional, nothing is there. It's very easy. And here you have a team. You have a database server. You can say you have a database. Now, I want that whenever something is uploaded to this bucket, I want it should be pushed into database table. The data should be pushed. Example, I have a remote users. I have some remote users. You can see that I have some remote users. So they are just doing some billing. Example, government says like here, all can pay the bill online, electricity bill, water bill, or whatever the bill they have, government use resources, they can pay online. So like some remote areas does not have a proper internet connection. So what I'll do that what? Just store into your system locally, then one time you go for what? Upload into what? A bucket. If you're accessing the application, it's taking a lot of bandwidth, slow. So I said just upload to the bucket. So whenever they store the data, I want it should be triggered. It should be triggered by a kind of function called what? Lambda. You say what? I want it should be automation process, data processing. Whenever the data comes here, the bills comes here, the data of the bill of the customer, I want that it should be pushed to where? Insert database. So I can write a code. The Lambda can be useful for inserting data into database table. Into database table. So now from here, the Lambda will get an information that someone uploaded some code. Then the Lambda will execute and insert into what? Database. That means S3 used by developers, S3 used by the customers, S3 used by a kind of data analytics engineer also. So a lot of people use in your company about this, and you have a cloud engineer, they want to do backup of your database. So how they do backup? They do backup in what? S3. So you have a server, on-premises server example. You have an on-premise database server, and the customer want that it should be stored, or it's going to be what? Automatically sync with what? This data. So in between, they required what? If they want continuously connection with S3, they need what? Storage gateway. storage gateway. So this storage gateway makes a connector, act as a connector between on-premises application and then your S3 server. So always the database or any kind of application will use S3 storage. Is it clear? S3 is common useful in your organization. Developer, testing engineers, and your customers, website hosting, to host a website, to serve the website, and to do backups of your servers. We use word S3. And your application example. A developer is basically what I said. They want to do what? They host a website, a dynamic website. Example, they host a website in EC2. They're running what? A Java-based applications. So now the application having some objects. So these objects, the developer can store into where? In the bucket. That means the current application, example, you have a YouTube kind of application and you have developed. All the videos will be stored into where? This bucket. And then again it's going to be integrated with what? This server. That means your application will access that videos from here. You're not going to store into this EC2 local storage, that is called EBS. We are going to store objects on what? The videos of application will be stored here. If you understand about Flipkart having thousands and millions of photos of products, I want to store into where? S3. Then I want to integrate toward my application which is running on EC2. So these are the scenarios how the S3 is being used in the market. Any questions? Any questions to
Yes,
anybody?
sir.
Now, what is S3 about? And purpose of S3? To store objects, data. It's a very cost efficient and more durable. So object data, like you can say audio, video, photos, or you have compressed files, or you have PDF, or you can say what? Hosting a website, taking a backups. So these are the three purposes. Objects, hosting a website, backups is a solution, is a kind of solution which goes toward S3. It's a very cost efficient and more durable storage in AWS cloud. Okay, so these are the purpose. This basically the purpose of basically S3. Now you have to understand some terminology. What is bucket? When you want to store anything in a S3, what you have to do? You have to create a bucket. Bucket is nothing but a container. It's kind of folder. So if I want to give the folder or bucket to a developer, so I can give a developer, you can access it. But developer 2 want to access for other purpose. I want to create one more bucket. One customer want to access some other things, right? They have to go for other things. So every bucket is going to work for every project, every purpose. A bucket can be created like as a kind of folder. So everyone can have a separate isolated place, a space, workspace where they can store it. And I can control who can access, who cannot access, permission, right? I can do all the permissions related kind of things here on the base of your management part. So if anyone asks you in a S3 level question, what is bucket? You say container to store any objects. So how many buckets you can store? Unlimited buckets. You can say unlimited storage. You can create unlimited bucket. How many bucket you want? You can just create it. And name should be, the bucket name should be what? Unique. Globally. Amazon having how many customers worldwide? How many customers? Initially we said Regions are 32 plus regions. Customers are 1 million plus customers. So all 1 million customers are going to use what? Same name, unique name. They cannot have a duplication. If I create a, like basically TCS here, no one can create again TCS in a like in your what? Entire S3 services. Definitely interviewer asks you about what is bucket, how much data we can store, and what is the unique name. Is it compulsory or not? They'll ask this. And bucket can be public or bucket can be private. That means if I make the bucket as a private, I can store the data only for my specific users or employees or colleagues, a team. But public means if I make the bucket as a public, then it's available to the anonymous, any users, anyone can access it. So that's very important that you need to understand the bucket can be public, the bucket can be private, bucket is like a store, and it's going to be unlimited bucket we can have. Name should be what? Unique. Is it clear? Fine. We'll do versioning, lock bucket and everything, but I'll just demonstrate something here. aws.amazon.com. I'm just typing, I'm logging to my session here. I'm having an account here. I'm logging to my account here. I log in here. And then I'll go for S3. As you know that in a search box you can type S3 and you can get the service. And every service will have their own dashboard. In the dashboard, on the left side, you'll find all the features of the bucket. And the right side, they'll say that how many buckets you have created till now. You're saying general purpose bucket. How many buckets are there? 3 buckets. So general purpose bucket and directory buckets. We have 2 types of bucket. It is introduced new topic, new kind of concept by Amazon. So we'll see what is bucket, general purpose and directory buckets, right? Now, what I'm going to give you tasks, create a bucket. How to create a bucket, I'll show you. Then I'll give a task to you. And you understand to create a bucket, what are the requests I have to give to Amazon? Region, first you have to select region. What region? North Virginia example. And you're saying bucket type, general purpose or directory purpose. What do you want? So I'll explain you what is the difference between this. First general purpose and a bucket name. I'll say that this is going to be my website. I want to host a website. So I'll give name of the website, domain name. If you want to host a website, you have to give what? Domain name. So what I have to give, example, I have a cloudinfotech.com, cloud infotech training, or you can say cloud infotech Azure.com. And it's saying that object ownership. So there's a ACL and ACL enable, disable and access control list. So initially you have to go for ACL disable because I don't want to go for permission to be defined by the group policy. That means a kind of script. I want to just enable and I want to manage the permission through console. That's why I just give this option initially. But we'll discuss more on that. What is disable, enable? What is differences? Block public access. If I block public access means by default is a private. If I remove this option, it becomes private, public. So in an interview they can say, how do you make public and private? You say what? It's going to be just a checkbox. If you remove it, it becomes public. If you block it, it's going to be private. Amazon saying you're going to go for public. Make sure that everyone can access. Okay, I acknowledge. What is versioning? What is versioning? So I said versioning is basically what? Keeping multiple kind of pattern. Example, my developer did develop and they have like hosted in a bucket. Now the customer sees, okay, it's fine, but having some like correction. So they'll give a correction. Again, they have to do again, developer has to do. So whenever they do multiple time frequent kind of changes, so I want to keep multiple copies of the changes because as a project manager, I want to track how many times, what date you change for the customer demand. I want to keep all the versions. So versioning is basically whenever you want to go for a website, it's good to go for versioning. Tag is a simple name, and the tag is a label of your bucket. You can give friendly name. Encryption is basically two types of encryption: rest level encryption and you can say transit level. When I say transit level encryption, so it's going to word movement. That means when I transfer the data, this data to one location, it's going to be encrypted. But when I say rest level encryption, so someone comes, hacker comes into my bucket and want to access, that is called rest level encryption. That is encrypted. Hackers, it's not easy to hack it. So it's good to go for what encryption type server side with S3, or you have another service called KMS. So Amazon saying, what do you want? You want to go for S3 managed encryption, or you want to go for KMS? So right now we are just doing first time. So we go for what's S3 based encryption. Bucket key. So I just keep it enable this bucket key, but I want to show you one more option, alloc. So it's good to go for this. Accidental deletion. In a EC2 we have seen accidental deletion protection. Suppose if I delete, terminate accidentally, so it's going to what? My important and confidential machine, which is very important, I deleted accidentally. So it's a protection. But in bucket also having a lot of data, so it's good to go for what? Object lock. So I'm not doing right now, but you have to understand this option. Then create a bucket. That's it. You understand now the bucket? So it's showing the bucket here, Cloud Infotech, AWS Azure. So I want that. I'm just stopping here. I want you should create some buckets. I'll give you some work here on a bucket as an assignment. Create what? A website for create a bucket forward UI developer to host a website. Which website they want to host? They want to say that you can say virtualdoctor.com. The domain name is what? virtualdoctor.com. The bucket name should be virtual.com. And what? Create bucket for my Linux admin to do server backups. Right? I want to create a bucket. So you have to appropriate name. Give the appropriate name. Backup, right? Server backup. Which server backup? And create a bucket for what? That means your backup bucket should be what? Private. It should not be public. Remember this point. It should be private bucket. Create a bucket. Or for like your what? You can say insurance company. Insurance documents as a private. As private. So you have to create at least these three buckets, and you have to make public or private, and you have to set the names properly. So that's going to be first work for your buckets. Okay, how to host a website we'll see tomorrow, but you have to understand the S3 purpose, and you have to understand this diagram. It's very important. Any question for me now?
No, sir.
So I'm concluding the session. We'll see you tomorrow. The practicals of S3, how to host a website, how to do backup, how to upload the data, how to do other options, permissions, which is very important here. We'll do that. So I'm concluding session, right? Thank you.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.